My name is Rob Liano. I'm the National Sales Director here at AHCP. Today's session is going to be a little fun and interesting because I'm going to share tips from one of the most famous and successful sales and marketing gurus who has ever existed. His name is Joseph Sugarman. If you don't know who Joe Sugarman is, he was called the mail order maverick by the New York Times because he used direct marketing to get the world's first pocket calculator into as many consumers' hands as possible. He also introduced the cordless phone and digital watch to the public with his marketing techniques. If that wasn't significant enough, you may have heard of blue blockers, those sunglasses that were all over the place. Well, his direct marketing acumen led to the sale of 20 million pairs of those. So I know many of us will take 20 customers a month, let alone 20 million sales. So what I am doing is I'm taking some excerpts from some of his training techniques, and I'm going to share them today and also relate them to what we do here in insurance. So one of the first things I want to talk about is the ice cream sundae, because in the late 1950s, Mr. Sugarman was working in New York. He was selling printing equipment. And one day after dinner, he decided to stop by an ice cream parlor to have a dish of ice cream. So he sat down at the counter, the waitress asked for his order, and he said, "I'll have a dish of chocolate ice cream with whipped cream." And the waitress looked at him with this puzzled expression and said, "You mean a chocolate sundae?" And he said, "No, just chocolate ice cream with whipped cream." And she said, "Well, that's a chocolate sundae without the syrup." So he said, "Isn't it just chocolate ice cream with whipped cream? What's the difference?" She said a sundae's 35 cents, but plain ice cream was 25 cents. So 10 cents was probably a lot more significant back then. But he said, "Okay, I want the chocolate ice cream with whipped cream. So if you have to charge me the extra 10 cents, fine," because that was his favorite dessert. So he had the ice cream. It was delicious, the story goes, and it was always his favorite dessert. So he got into the habit of ordering this. So he had noticed that even though he went to different diners, he ordered it the same way, meaning chocolate ice cream with whipped cream. And every waitress would look at him and say, "You mean a sundae?" And he would say, "No, not a sundae, just chocolate ice cream with whipped cream." This happened on and on and on. So one day after a really long day at work, he decided he didn't want to get into this whole hassle of arguing back and forth about 10 cents, right? So he just said, "You know what? I just want chocolate ice cream." But then he thought as the waitress was walking away, why should I not have what I love just because I get all this resistance? So he said, "Ma'am, can you add some whipped cream to that?" And she looked at him and said, "Yeah, sure." And what he noticed after the fact was he only got charged 25 cents instead of the extra 10 cents he was being charged when he asked the other way. So he started to do this experiment and went to diners that he had already been to and had these discussions with waitresses and tried it the same way by saying, "Can I just get a chocolate ice cream?" And after they wrote down the order and was walking away, he would say, "Hey, can you just add some whipped cream on top of that?" And they would all say yes. And every time he would be only charged 25 cents. So then he did the ultimate test. He flipped it again and started to order the other way to see if it consistently happened that he would be charged more. So he would do that, and it worked out the same way. And then he tried the final test, and I'm going to get to the point. I appreciate you following me on this. He and a friend went to the same diner. One ordered one way, saying, "I want ice cream with whipped cream on it." And he ordered just chocolate ice cream, but as she was walking away, said, "Can you add whipped cream to mine also?" His friend got charged 35 cents, and he got charged 25. So the whole moral of this story really is, he determined that the most important thing he could do is turn a prospect into a customer and then make it incredibly easy for that prospect to commit to a purchase. Because what happened was the waitress already committed to that order. 25 cents, just a regular ice cream. After the fact, it was kind of like a cross-sell. He decided to ask for more, and she said, "Sure," because the order was already taken. How that relates to us in sales is what we want to do is get the order, get that commitment, and then add something else on that maybe they showed interest in during the call. Instead of trying to create a bundled package and overwhelm them with, it's $390 a month for all of these things, an angle you may want to try going forward in sales is once you lock down that medical sale or med supplement, then say, hey, you know what? You wanted the accident plan, right? And now you could add in the accident plan. Yes, there's an additional cost by doing it this way, but the whole thing is that they've already committed. So they're more likely to be receptive and accepting of you adding something additionally. Now, a great example of this besides insurance is car dealerships. Everyone has probably experienced where you place the order and then they say, hey, do you want the extended warranty? Or do you want the undercoating they used to say back in the day? Or the floor mats? Like these days, everything costs money. Floor mats used to come with a car, now they don't. But they're going to ask you after the sale to upsell. Humana used to do this on the phone where we used to be able to hand over a client to Humana and they would literally write the policy over the phone. It allowed me to write 11 sales in one day where they wrote 4 of them for me. Basically, I had the lines on hold on my phone, and throughout the day they were writing my sales as I was on other calls writing other ones. But they very often upsold clients. Like I would get the receipt in the email of the record of the client, and they would have added dental. And it was like, because maybe I had already mentioned it, now they mentioned it again, and the client said, yeah, you know what, I'll take it. Or if we look at it in the reference of how Joe Sugarman frames it, I had already got the commitment, and they were writing up the sale, and then Humana offered, do you want to add dental to that? Yeah, okay, I'll take it. So don't be afraid ever to cross-sell or upsell someone when you have gained their commitment. Because for me, that's when the client is yours. And, the worst thing they could do is say no. It's not like they're going to say, hey, you know what? I don't want the insurance anymore either and hang up on you. You may have heard me say that before. But I want you to keep in mind that you should not only sell one thing to your customer. A lot of people get in the habit of just selling the insurance, just selling the med supp. Your client may want and be able to afford more. So if this is an interesting type of technique that maybe you feel more comfortable with doing after the fact, meaning, okay, the Medicare supplement's locked down, it's secure, the health insurance policy is secure, now I'm going to offer other things. And eventually you could offer it, a month later, 2 months later down the road when you want to just tighten up, make sure that client's on the books, however you want to do it. But my suggestion is don't be afraid to do it on that first phone call that you're writing the policy face-to-face, whatever it is, as long as you explain the benefits and how it will suit their needs and wants and at least be equivalent or better than what they already had before. That's kind of critical too. All right, so the next one is a funny story, and this is not how he tells it, but I'm going to tell you this because there's relevance here too, and it correlates to the first point, and I will show you how that will. So everything in sales is not only understanding the nature of the product you're offering, but also your demographic and your prospects, right? And their buying habits and needs and desires, right? So when Joe Sugarman was in college and thinking about joining a fraternity, he had this experience that points out the value of understanding, how people tick, right? And what will attract them. He decided to join the worst fraternity in college, and after spending some time visiting them, he figured out the number one that he wanted to choose, which was the worst one. And he also figured out the nature of why guys joined a fraternity in the first place. And if anyone on this call was in a fraternity, I'm sure this will resonate with you. So he wanted to really turn around the worst fraternity on campus and make it the best one, simply by coming up with an effective marketing plan to increase membership. So he took into account that students wanted to join a frat because 2 things. A, they would meet girls, right? B, because of the camaraderie they would have by joining one. So he nicknamed this thing Operation Survival. And what he did was his whole, concept was to have a great big open house, invite other students to, get them to join this fraternity. And what he did was 2 things. He wanted the existing fraternity brothers to show how much they appreciated one another, because that would show the camaraderie. And he also wanted to get like the hottest girls on campus to host so that it would attract the other segment of the men who wanted to meet women, right? However, he really wanted to be elite. So the story goes, as he tells it, he actually had to hire strippers to come to this thing. Now, I'm not telling you to hire strippers, of course, to get sales and insurance. I'm just telling you what he did. The problem was the fraternity brothers didn't really like each other because it was the worst fraternity. So he had them fake putting their arms around each other and saying great things about one another. And what that did was it increased everything, all of the I guess recruits, if you would call it. I know I was never in a fraternity, so I don't know what it's called, but it increased recruits and worked successfully to where they were the #1 fraternity. So prospecting is key, but the takeaway for this with insurance is knowing your target audience and make sure you are marketing to that target audience. So if you have a certain demographic and you can discover because to run a health quote, you discover their income, you should now start to formulate while you're talking to your customer what package you could build for them, not just the insurance, but adding in an accident plan if they have kids. All of these little things throughout your journey on the phone with the client should be planting seeds in your mind as to what you develop in the benefits package so that you can present them with the best possible option that will allow them to be protected, because that's what this is all about, right? We're here to protect our customers. It's really serve and protect. What the police say, that's what we do as insurance agents, and it's a responsibility, but it also will work. So you have to not only know your products, know how your products fit into your clients. Like you have to be able to determine and explain to someone where maybe the bronze or gold plans, they're not going to work, but they need to get a short-term medical plan, right? There's going to be instances like that. Obviously, we have a guaranteed issue 1 and a simplified issue through NHIC. So there should really be no excuses, and a client should never hang up the phone without having bought something, unless in the instance of it just you've really exhausted the opportunity and you don't know how to help them, or they cannot be helped in their current situation. I don't think that's going to be most people you encounter. Most people you encounter are A, interested, B, have a sense of urgency because open enrollment's coming and it's going to be over at a certain time, and C, they really want to buy. They're staying on the phone with you longer than 2 minutes because they want their needs resolved, right? That's what it is. They're not like I hear very often an agent will hang up the phone and say, well, they weren't interested. I'm like, really? They spent 30 minutes on the phone with you. They had to be interested, but I guess when you were done, they weren't interested in buying from you. That's the reality of it. So you want to maintain that buying desire, maintain that interest, and then solve their challenge. And this is where becoming an expert and knowing the products and knowing your demographic will work to your advantage. All right, the next one's a fun one. I'm going to call it the Shinola Factor because if anyone knows this phrase, I'm not going to say the rest of it. But this is interesting. It's something that I've always done and incorporated into our scripting and presentations and things of that nature. Sometimes, and often, sometimes, we encounter what's called objections, right, when in sales. So his mentality is turning that objection into a sale. I call it turning the why into a buy, right? The whole thing is we know as salespeople, and I've covered this in training, literally to a T, so I didn't realize that it's something somewhat that he's referred to. But we know whether you're doing this a month, 10 years, it doesn't matter. You have probably heard every potential quote-unquote objection that you're going to get. Can you send me some information? I need to talk to my spouse. I'm just looking for quotes, or I need to think it over, right? Those are probably the main ones, or you're the 5th agent to call me. There's a handful that we encounter. So if we know that these are going to pop up potentially, why do so many salespeople in any realm, not just insurance, wait till the end to address it? And the point that Joseph Sugarman brings up is turning that shoddiness into Shinola by bringing it up beforehand. And I've done this, and I'm going to give you an example. The scripting that I've used, literally, because I got tired of, I need to speak to my spouse. So what I always said was, so who else is going to be on this policy with you? And if it was a woman, they'd say, oh, it's for my husband and I. And I would literally say, oh, so you're the one taking care of the headache to getting the insurance, huh? And they'd say, yep, I'm the one that does all the bills. I'm doing this. I'm taking care of it. So I literally just eliminated well, I need to talk to my husband, because I tactfully qualified that this is the buyer, the purchaser, the one who makes the decision. And now I have eliminated that objection before it happens. So this is something that you could think about. What are all the things that people come up with? Because, I mean, you can literally, just going off the top of my head, if something that you hit very often is, hey, you know what, I need to think about it. Before you get to the close, you could say, hey, so is there anything, you might need to think about that I can cover now? That's a simple phrase that I never used before, but I just thought of it thinking of, hey, how can we make this work out? Start to think about, hey, what are the things you may get hit with, and then incorporate them into your presentation. Now, it won't eliminate everything you encounter, but it will give you some ammunition when they come up. For instance, when someone tells me, yeah, I'm the one making the decision, if they say, well, you know what, I really need to speak to my spouse, I would say, oh, well, I know you're the one taking care of it, so that you don't have a headache. So how about we submit the policy together, and then you could show it to them, or you could have me speak to them. Because the number one rule that I go by is I am never going to let someone who doesn't know how to sell and doesn't know insurance try and sell a product for me. Meaning, a husband or wife, I'm never going to allow them to go talk to their spouse and run things over, because they're never going to get it right. They're never going to present it the way I can. So I need to either speak to them or close that sale. Period. End of story. That is the mentality you must adopt, because you will probably experience, if you haven't already, when you let people go, you don't get enough of them back. They don't sign up as often as we'd like after that fact. Statistically, sales are closed on call number 1 and 2, the largest percentage. The lowest percentage are calls 3, 4, 5, et cetera, because at that point, you're just chasing a maybe. So the more you can position yourself and arm yourself against the potential things that come up, the better, because you'll be able to close more sales, help more customers. It's just a cycle that you want to get into, instead of wasting time and chasing people down and yet, sure, talk to your husband, I'll give you a call on Thursday, and they don't pick up the phone. We've all been there. And for me, it's worth it to just, put your fear and hesitation aside and really go for it, and go for the gusto. I don't mean be pushy or condescending or anything like that. I just mean be a little more aggressive than maybe you're being, but in a authoritative and caring way. Because if they hang up the phone and don't buy from you, who I consider professionals, you never know what they're going to get if they may be steered the wrong way. That's one of the other reasons I didn't ever like letting anyone go. So all of these components here can allow you to increase your business, create a better benefits package, and close more sales, which is huge. All right, so the fourth one. It's a bonus, and it's a short story that I read in a Zig Ziglar book, and I can't remember the person who he was talking about. And unfortunately, I am packing to move, and all of my books went first, because that's what I have the most of. So I couldn't even grab the book as a reference. So I do apologize. But the story goes like this. There was an insurance agent, literally used this example, an insurance agent who was really good friends with either like a president or a CEO or something. And they were buddies, like they would hang out. It was like if one of you and I were friends and we got to hang out, and, I was an insurance guy and you were this, high government position. And supposedly the story goes that this, I'll say politician. The politician bought like $1 million life insurance policy because, of course, he needed to protect his kids. Anyone on this call who does life knows that it doesn't matter what era you sell in, $1 million policy is worth pretty much a lot of money, right? So the insurance friend asked the politician, how come you didn't buy it from me? And the politician said an eye-opening reality check response and said, you never asked. So this life insurance salesperson never asked or never thought to ask that his friend might need insurance. So the takeaway lesson there for me is always ask for the sale A. I wrote an article recently that says you need to talk to all your friends and family about what you do, because you never know if they don't understand it or they just don't want to impose. So you need to let them know, especially because the people closest to you are the ones that need, or we like to think we would like to protect them the most. So don't have any fear in A, asking for the sale with authority, B, asking your friends and family. So I want to recap. Cross-sell after you gain commitment. So there's a couple of ways of doing this. A common way is bundle a package together and say, hey, you're getting all this for the low price of $3.99. Or you could say, hey, you know what? How about I add in the dental plan for you? It's just an extra $5 a month or $19.99 a month. Whichever approach you want to take, when this open enrollment starts, please focus on cross-selling. Don't just sell one. Make yourself a contest that however many additional sales you get, you're going to do something to reward yourself and make it a fun game, because you would want a better benefits package. If you don't have things like an accident plan, you have kids, you're doing yourself a disservice. So you know how they say write a policy on yourself first? You should. I have one of the agents that used to work for me that now is actually over here at AHCP. She has had so much use of an accident plan because she has 3 kids. And that's the number one thing she has tacked on to her insurance sales is an accident plan, because she tells people, oh yeah, the kid was playing football, fractured his elbow or whatever happened, boom, $2,500. I didn't have to pay anything except $100 deductible because I had this accident plan. So we all have stories, we all have families, we all have friends. We can share this knowledge and allow people to change their perception. Because unfortunately, a lot of people come in, especially now with all the changes in the ACA, they don't necessarily know everything that's covered in their plans, right? So they may be assuming that, yeah, accidents are covered and not realize that they're going to get hit with a whopping deductible. So all the more reason to educate the consumer and present this better benefits package, because their focus may only be on, I need health insurance. They may not realize they need dental, so it's our responsibility to offer that. They may not realize they need something like an accident plan or critical illness, so it's our responsibility to offer. They can say no. Remember that. It's all good. You'll still probably 99 out of 100 times get the medical insurance sale, even if they say, hey, you know what? I really can't afford that. That's okay. You're still going to get a sale, but you have to try to create a better benefits package. Okay, next one. Know the nature of your clients. You should, if you're in this as a rookie, you'll have to start to monitor and pay attention. But you should know, and you know, I don't know if anyone was on the call where I talked about when I wrote a voicemail message that I would leave, but I would leave the voicemail message saying, hey, this is Rob Liano. I've been assigned to be the agent for your health insurance. Whether you're uninsured, just got a rate increase, or switching jobs and you're going to have no insurance, either way, I can help you. It was something like that. Actually, I haven't sold in a while, so I don't remember it exactly. But it was something like that. But I literally would have people say, yeah, how did you know I was uninsured? Because this is my job, and that's what the most people I talk to say. So what are the most common issues that your clients are having? Start to incorporate that into your presentation and approach so that you are showing your client that you already understand what their challenges are, and you will come off as a Jedi salesperson, because they will be like, wow, this guy's amazing, or girl is amazing at what they do. How do they know? Because that's our job, right? We should know this. So that's one of the important components to pay attention to. Next thing, handle objections before they occur. Anything, like if you walked anywhere and they said, well, yeah, you know what, we'd like, let's say, I think there was recently a recall on Honda cars. And one of the best things any salesperson can do is, if you walked on a lot, would say, hey, well, you know, you might have heard that we had these recalls on the things, but that has since been taken care of, and all of our cars are now A-rated on crash tests. Whatever it would be, to bring it up and then eliminate it. This way, you don't know what's in the client's head. You don't know if they had a horrible experience with, let's say, United Healthcare, and you're presenting them with United Healthcare, right? You don't know any of that, and that's just an example. So what you want to do is try to figure out, okay, what are the roadblocks I might encounter, and how can I position myself to eliminate them, because that will eliminate them for the client. Lastly, ask for the sale. Absolutely a must. Pick up the phone, ask for an appointment, ask for a sale, ask for the cross sell, ask for a referral, and ask your client what their needs. Sales literally is asking questions and shutting up and listening to the answers, except when it's your turn to present a solution. And then you still want to ask any questions just in case you were thinking about something maybe I didn't handle. Fire away. Anything that's making you hesitate, fire away. What can I do to help you? Exactly. Etc., etc. Ask for the sale. Matthew 7:7, ask and it shall be given to you. Best advice on sales ever. And if you're going to go knock on businesses' doors, knock and it will be opened. So literally good content from what they call the good book.